authors, including those of psychology textbooks, argue that DID is rare. The prevalence rates found in psychiatric inpatients, psychiatric outpatients, the general population, and a specialized inpatient unit for substance dependence suggest otherwise. DID is found in approximately 1.1% to 1.5% of representative community samples. Specifically, in a representative sample of 658 individuals from New York State, 1.5% met criteria for DID when assessed with SCIDD questions. 77. Similarly, a large study of community women in Turkey, N equals 628, found 1.1% of the women had DID. Separating fact from fiction. An empirical examination of 6 myths about dissociative identity disorder. PMC, Harvard Review of Psychiatry. 2016 July. Across multiple studies and settings, the prevalence of dissociative identity disorder, DID, shows a clear pattern. It is not rare in clinical populations, though it is less common in the general population. In psychiatric inpatient settings, rates vary widely from 0.4% to 5.4%, with several studies clustering around the 2 to 5% range, suggesting DID is relatively common among more acute or hospitalized patients. In outpatient settings, prevalence remains notable at approximately 2.0% to 6.0%, again indicating meaningful clinical presence. Among the general population, rates are lower but still consistent across studies at about 1.1% to 1.5%, comparable to or higher than some other well-recognized psychiatric disorders. Additionally, in substance-dependent inpatient samples, prevalence rises again, around 5.8%, highlighting the association between dissociation and complex clinical presentations. DID in the general population is 1% to 1.5%, often compared to bipolar 1 prevalence. This range comes from large epidemiological studies using structured interviews, SCIDD, DDIS. DID in clinical outpatient samples is reported to be 2% to 5%. All dissociative disorders approximately 5% general. DID in inpatient psychiatric samples is 4% to 14%. All dissociative disorders approximately 10% psych clients. Comparison to bipolar disorders. Bipolar 1 is 1%. Bipolar 2 is 1.1%. Cyclothymia is 0.4 to 1%. DID is not extremely rare. Its prevalence is similar to bipolar 1 or OCD. Dissociative disorders as a group are as common as all mood disorders in psychiatric settings. Medical providers often underestimate dissociation because of training gaps. Compared to obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, 1.2% of adults, U.S., past year, 2 to 3% lifetime prevalence. In youth, 1 to 2%. OCD prevalence is roughly equal to DID and lower than anxiety and mood disorders. All dissociative disorders. Depersonalization/derealization disorder. DPDRD, approximately 1 to 2% lifetime. Transient symptoms in 50% of adults. Dissociative amnesia, approximately 1 to 3%. Other specified dissociative disorder. OSDD1. Harder to quantify. Roughly 3 to 6% in clinical samples. FND/conversion disorder, 4 to 12 per 100,000 annually, approximately 5% of neurology clinics. Any dissociative disorder combined, 10% of psychiatric inpatients, 3 to 10% of general population, varies by methodology. Across the 3 general population studies, overall prevalence of any dissociative disorder ranged from 9.1% to 18.3%, with Ross, 1997, reporting 12.2%, Johnson et al., 2006 at 9.1%, and Sarr et al., 2007, at 18.3%. Looking at specific diagnoses, dissociative amnesia showed notable variability, 1.8% to 7.3%, while dissociative fugue was extremely rare, 0 to 0.2%. Dissociative identity disorder, DID, appeared consistently across studies at relatively low but stable rates, 1.1% to 1.5%. Depersonalization disorder was also relatively low, 0.8% to 2.8%. In contrast, dissociative disorder not otherwise specified, DDNOS, showed the greatest variability and was often the most prevalent category, 0.2% to 8.3%, with Sar et al. Further identifying subtypes, including presentations with multiple personality states, 4.1%, and indirect cues of personality states, 2.4%. Additional phenomena such as derealization without depersonalization, 1.1%, and dissociative trance disorder, 0.6%, were reported only in the SAR study. Overall, the data suggests that while classic dissociative disorders like DID occur at low but consistent rates, broader or subthreshold dissociative presentations are considerably more common in the general population.